Hello, everybody. How are you? I just want to welcome you to tonight's session. Thank you so much for being here and spending some time with me here this evening for the Heal the Deal session that we'll be doing tonight. So I'm excited to have you here with me, and I want to thank you so much for registering and joining me for this call. And just to kind of get us moving forward here as we're moving into this higher energy and new vibration, which has, of course, been happening for a while, especially this year has been a pretty wild year. So I wanted to do this session because my new book, Heal the Deal, just came out. And the tagline for the book is Your Guide to High Energy, No Pressure Selling. So this book is about selling, but really doing business in the world that we are moving into currently. So what I want to do is a little webinar here, just kind of give you a little snapshot of how this works and what we could expect going forward and how we're going to integrate into this new energy for the business world, because this is going to be an important part of what we're doing. We're out here, we're still functioning and operating in higher energy, and there's a lot of disruption, but we want to make sure that we can function at a high level to be successful as we go forward. So we want to be able to operate differently than we did in the past. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about tonight. I'll cover some basic information about the philosophies and concepts that I have in the book. Also want to talk to you a little bit about just what's happening in general, because we're going through, of course, a wild ride in 2020. So we know this has been a pretty crazy year, and I think it's going to continue that way. I think the energy is going to just be very up and down, and we're going to have to ride it out, but it's up to us to get ourselves in a really good space so that we can move forward in a positive way, regardless of what's happening externally. So that's a big part of what we want to focus on tonight as far as going forward and moving ourselves together and forward in a positive way. So let's get, I like to jump right into it. Being a New Yorker, I'll tell you about myself in a minute, but I always like to, whenever I have an event or a session or a seminar, whatever it is, or coaching, I like to jump right in and make sure I give you a lot of value in the shortest possible window of time. So, we are in a new world. As we know, the world is completely different, and it's moving very rapidly, and changes are taking place every second. So what's happening now is the world is changing. Generally, when we have a lot of disruption, that is the time when we're going to see changes, and that's what we're seeing right now. And the way we operated before is not going to work as we continue to evolve and elevate ourselves. And this really applies also especially to the business world. So what we did before, what worked before, the way people operated. Now, as I say that, understand that I don't mean that this is happening overnight. This is going to happen over time as we continue to move forward, but I'm already seeing it happen. I'm already seeing people who were doing well before, or had done things that were, let's say, we might say, well, they weren't the most honest, or they didn't do business the right way. Again, and I'm not looking to judge anybody, but we are seeing tables turning, so to speak. We're seeing a lot of course, upset in the world politically. We're seeing all kinds of transitions and things taking place. So I want to really focus on how do we deal with all this, and then still, because we're functioning in a physical world, and we obviously have to have an income, and we're doing business, and we're still out there working, and we're all doing our thing. So the question is, how do we operate in this world and still be able to go forward in a positive way and create the reality and life that we want, right? So that's really how we want to see this as we go forward. So it's something that you have to understand, that you are going to be in control of where your life goes. And that is a key piece of the puzzle for us. So that's a lot of what I want to talk to you about tonight, because I see business as a place of healing, and I think that's the world we're going into. So this is a world that will be different, because before, business was not like that, and we're going to talk about that tonight, because I really want to be clear on the paradigm shift that we're going through, although it is, again, going to be a transition that takes some time. So tonight, I want to focus on success, what that means. We're going to focus on belief systems, very important. Energy, of course, the energy that we're putting out there is critical. Emotion, because emotion is what drives everything forward. And something I created for this book called E squared. So this is something I want to talk to you about, something I came up with as I was meditating one day. It came to me about how to really kind of pull these things together and these philosophies into the same place. So I want to just I'll go through all these different things tonight and kind of pull it all together for you. Before we really get going, just in case some of you don't know me, I know from the registrations what I got to look at that obviously a lot of people do know who I am, but just in case you don't know me, give you a quick overview of who I am. So I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I grew up there. That's where I was born. That's where I was raised. And if you're looking at the webinar screen, you can see I actually found a picture of a feast that still actually is going on now. We used to go there when we were kids, and it was a big feast that we used to go to in Brooklyn. It always reminded me of being back there. We used to still go there when I was in New York. We used to still go all the time. They have it every year around the 4th of July. I don't think I'll have it this year, of course, because they didn't have it this year because of COVID and so forth. But that's what they did. So it kind of brought me back there. I've been in California since 2011. I moved out here with my family in Southern California, so we've been here then. But originally I grew up most of my life in Brooklyn. Most of the work I did was in New York, so that's kind of how I started out. So for me, I came out of high school. My dad passed when I was 12 years old. He was a narcotics detective in New York. He passed on the job when I was a kid. So instead of he always wanted me to go to college. And this is the funny thing about life, right? Because things change based on circumstances and situations. He would always talk to me about going to college and getting an education. And when he passed, we had a lot of issues and financial trouble. So I went to work right after high school. So again, I have a couple of slides. I found an old picture of myself when I was probably around that age. You could see me with my hairstyle and my gold chain. I was kind of discoed up there at that time. And after high school, the first job I got was actually delivering beer. I delivered Budweiser beer off a truck in Brooklyn. And then about a year after that, I actually bought a soda delivery business. I bought a Yoo-Hoo business. It was Yoo-Hoo chocolate drink, if you remember that drink. And long story short, I want to give you the short version, but just so you understand how I came to do this work, I started a business when I was 19 years old. I ended up going bankrupt by the time I was 20. I bounced around. I did a number of different things in between. I was bartending and I was working in different areas, kind of catering that business and working in that area. And then I got into sales. I got into selling advertising space. Ended up starting a direct mail marketing business while I was doing that, and went bankrupt a second time by the time I was 30. So what happened for me really was because of the struggles, and I was working very hard, and I was putting in a lot of energy and effort, and I was knocking myself out, and I just could not sustain myself. I couldn't get myself to the point where I was creating an income that was sustainable and that was really working. And out of pure desperation, because I didn't know what else to do, because I was doing everything that I thought I was supposed to do. I was working hard. I was putting in a lot of hours. I was setting my goals. I was doing affirmations, because even though I didn't go to college, I was a voracious reader. I was reading all the time. I was reading about success and success mindsets and all this kind of stuff, and it just wasn't working. So I ended up going to see a therapist, which I went very reluctantly because it wasn't something that Italians from Brooklyn think of doing when they're under duress. It wasn't like a family thing that we would do and say, oh yeah, I'm going to go and go to therapy. That was not something we talked about, specifically back then when I was younger. So I went and I just found it to be absolutely fascinating and started to learn more and more about psychology and human behavior and started to read a lot about it. Took some courses. My therapist gave me a whole bunch of material to read. I took some college classes and started to really learn about human behavior and how our mind works and why things are happening the way they're happening. And that led me into metaphysical energy work. And I started to learn more about how your energy field works and law of attraction I had learned about 25 years ago, and learned about the chakra system and how we have energy in our chakras that are vibrating and creating your reality. And I learned, working with a series of people, but one very powerful enlightened master teacher, how to clear energy out of the chakra system and create different vibration and heal myself, really, which is what I was doing. So I started doing all that and really started to see much better results. So now, I go out, I do a lot of business consulting and sales training that I still do. And you see, if you're looking at these pictures, you have me eating fire over here. One is a picture of me with Bruno from Dancing with the Stars. We did an event that he was there, Guy MTV. The Dalai Lama picture actually is not the Dalai Lama. If you're looking at your screen, that was the Wax Museum in New York, Madame Tussauds Wax Museum in New York. So we got to take that picture. And you can see at the bottom, I actually Heal the Deal is my 6th book. So not bad for a kid who failed English in high school. And now I've written 6 books, and I have another one that I'm working on for 2021. Going down this road. So this is a road I never expected to go down. And as I was learning all these principles, I started to say, well, I was doing it for myself personally, but I thought, well, these are universal principles, energy principles. Why can't I apply these into business? Because these were really not designed for business the way I was learning it. But I said, why not? It's energy. Everything is energy. Why can't I do that? So I started to do that. I started to bring these principles. And then by that time, I was working in corporate. I was a sales manager. I started using these principles to help my salespeople, got great results, went from there, got a book deal to write the book Spiritual Selling. Heal the Deal is an update of that one, but started to use these principles and teach people how their energy is really impacting their level of success. So this was something for me that was very different because it took me down a road that I did not understand or certainly did not know anything about because my belief system was hard work. So let me kind of show you how I got there and then show you how I got here, and then we can put it all together. So I started thinking about, early on when I was young, I was very driven to be successful. That was kind of like, it was just in me, like when these things are in your body, and part of it was circumstantial, I think, because my mother put a lot of pressure on me as a kid, and I felt like I needed to go out and be successful. But I was a hard worker, and even when I played sports as a kid, I worked hard. I was a vigilant kind of worker, and, again, one of those things that you just have it in you. You just do it. So for me, when I first started, everybody said to me, you have to read this book. It's called Think and Grow Rich. It's a book by Napoleon Hill. It came out in 1937. So believe it or not, so this was, of course, well after that. And everybody said, you have to read this book. This is one of those early, like, I guess you'd call it self-help or personal development, whatever you want to call it, right? So I go out and I get this book and I read it. And a lot of the book talks about the successful people in the U.S. who were at that turn of the century, that late 1800s, post-Civil War, early 1900s, Andrew Carnegie, Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, these people who built these incredible empires. So Napoleon Hill, the story was a young writer. He met Andrew Carnegie, and Andrew Carnegie, who at one point was the richest man in the world. He was Carnegie Steel, which he sold, and ended up ultimately becoming U.S. Steel. So at one point, he was the richest person in the world. And Carnegie said to Napoleon Hill, who was this young, ambitious writer, he said, I want you to go out. He said, I know a lot of people. A lot of people work for me. They work really hard. I want to know why certain people are successful and certain people are not. So he said, I will introduce you to all these successful people, the Rockefeller, Vanderbilt, J.P. Morgan, all these super successful people, and I want you to interview them and put this information together, and that's where the Think and Grow Rich book came from. For me, as an ambitious young kid, I'm saying, okay, I want to find out what these guys did, and I want to model that. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out and find out how these people started from zero. All these people started with nothing, and Carnegie was an immigrant. Rockefeller, Vanderbilt, these were not people who came from wealth. And Carnegie Hall in New York, Grand Central Station was built by Cornelius Vanderbilt. Rockefeller, of course, was Standard Oil. These were the richest people in the world. So as I go into it, and I was very excited, I said, I'm going to learn this story, what these guys did, how they became successful. And it started out for me as this very exciting thing to do. But as I got deeper into it and started to learn more about what these people were doing, it kind of moved into a little bit of a nightmare type territory for me, because I started to read and find out how they got there. And these guys, and it's funny because it's kind of a double-edged sword. One part of me had to just give them appreciation for what they accomplished, because their accomplishment was extraordinary. But on the other side, the way they did it through ruthless tactics was really disturbing, because I said, wow, this was the way. Is this the way you have to be successful? Is this the way it is? And growing up in New York, growing up in that environment, it was hardcore, and you saw that it was competition, and you had to beat the competition, and it was like this very intense type of environment, which I really always felt uncomfortable in. But I was like, I kind of did as much as I could do of it in sales and in business and what I was doing. But it was not my thing. It just made me uncomfortable. And I kind of had this internal battle going on between, well, I want to be successful, but I don't know that I can do this the way what these people did. I mean, Carnegie worked people to death. He hired a guy that was this intimidating guy to run his factory because he didn't want to do it, and he worked them endless hours, which created a riot there. People got killed. Rockefeller, the same thing, ruthless tactics. Vanderbilt went out. Rockefeller would go out and buy an oil producer near him and close him down, put all those people out of work just so he didn't have competition. Vanderbilt would block railroads so people couldn't get through, and the competition couldn't get their goods to where they. So these guys did intense things. They did really, extreme things to be successful. So it was almost like they were going to do whatever it took to be successful. And regardless of collateral damage and again, I don't get into right and wrong because that's a judgment and we don't even want to go there, but it was a disturbing fact for me. So my old beliefs were, when I first started, that it was about hard work. You use your will to succeed. You will yourself to success. You have to win. It's all about being number one and beating everybody and winning. And it's all push and pressure. You go out there, you push hard, you put people under pressure, you make those sales, you do what you have to do. So I did it. I really could never do it that way 100%, although I tried because that was what I learned to do. But over time, I realized as I got into this other work that was not the way to go. That was not the way I wanted to live my life. So now my new belief system focuses on flow. I want to be in a good flow of energy. I want to help people. I want to help people heal, and I want to be of service. So that is the different shift. Now, when I say this sometimes when I go into the corporate world, and I still do a lot of training in corporate, and a lot of the companies are still in that old, beat people up, work them hard, push as hard as you can, win at all costs mentality. And I go in and I'm trying to show them a different way to operate. So this is where we're shifting to. Now, understand something, and this is an important part of this world that we have to really look at, which is energy is non-judgmental. So because it's non-judgmental, it does not say, well, because people would say to me, well, how do these people who are such horrible people and they're such nasty people and they're the worst types of people, how are they so successful? And I said, because energy does not judge. Energy works off of what you put. It's almost like what you put into it. So if my focus is only on, I am going to win, I'm going to succeed, I don't care what I have to do, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, I don't care who gets hurt in the process, and that's my focus of energy, that's what I will create that. Now, it doesn't mean I won't create other issues or problems for myself, but that is where I will land, because I will get to, if I focus on something, because energy works on the premise of focus and expansion. So we understand that that's where it was. So I said, I'm going to try to do it a different way. And I've been able to do that, and I've been able to help other people do it. That's what we really want to, where we really want to get to today. So the first thing that was the key to really moving forward was, and in terms of saying it, was upgrading your emotional operating system. So this became the most important part of the process, was understanding that everything is emotional and your energy is based on emotion. And if you don't upgrade your emotional operating system, you will be constantly stuck and you will never get forward. You'll always be, even if you are successful, you're going to have a million other problems because you're going to have unresolved emotions and feelings that are going to cause you distress. So I had to understand that the first phase of this was go inside. So my thing was always go outside. My thing was work hard, push hard, make a lot of phone calls, see a lot of people. That's the way you become successful. You go out there and do this work and you go 900 miles an hour, certainly being in New York, that was part of it. But now it was like, wait a minute, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is getting your emotion in alignment with where you want to go. So what it came down to, the first thing when we talk about upgrade, is how do you process your emotions? this is the most important thing. And I laugh when I think about upgrades because, it's funny. We have a phone. It's funny, this morning, just when I got up, I had a message on my phone that said, it said, you need to, your operating system needs an upgrade. And of course, first thing you do is you push the button and it upgrades the phone. And we do this with our cars. We do this with computers. Your car needs to get a tune up. We do all this. But do we do it for ourselves? So what I first had to look at was to say, how do I process my emotion? This will be based on what you learned growing up as a kid. So do you act out? Are you reactionary? Do you manipulate? Is that something you do? Now, understand, a lot of this you may be doing in an unconscious way because you're not consciously doing it. It's just what you learn to do. Do you move into compulsive behavior? And I've worked with many people who could be in compulsive cleaning, compulsive working, compulsive exercising, whatever it is, when you get stressed or when you're in emotional duress. Do you become a victim and project the anger out? Now, I've seen this a million times working in corporate where people get upset or get stressed out or get frustrated, where they become victims and they project their anger out onto other people. I see it all the time. It happens every single day. So people do this on a regular basis. That is something that people get frustrated. The boss gets mad. He yells at all the people. I see it constantly. And of course, I was more of the depression guy. I didn't get illnesses, luckily, but I was very repressed and I got very depressed. So those were the two things that I did. I went into very deep levels of depression. Now, the key to moving forward, the first thing is I had to learn to identify and feel my emotion. So that was the first key to success for me, was to say I needed to get into a different space. So basically, it was the difference between thinking versus feeling. I was trained, as most of us were, right, which was to say, okay, I'm going to figure out the solution, and then I am going to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to make a plan, and then I am going to do that if I have a problem. I never learned growing up, which most people didn't, to say, how does this make me feel? How am I feeling about this? And I was doing a training recently at a company. One of the things I'm teaching all the management is you're very good at the clinical side of the business, like analyzing the numbers and looking at the trends and seeing what's going on, but you're terrible at making the people feel valued and important and understanding what's going on with them to help improve their performance. It's all black and white looking at the numbers. So the key going forward is to say, I need to focus on what I'm feeling, because what I'm feeling is creating my outcomes. My feeling is creating it, not my thinking, my feeling. Because think about this, right? I'm going to say think about this, right, just as I say it. But you may be wanting to do a lot of things, make more money, start a business, write a book, lose weight, get in a relationship, whatever that may be. But you're mentally going through the process of saying, this is what I want in my head, but my emotional self, my energetic self is not in alignment with that. And that's where you're getting stuck. So the first thing is, and we're looking at this in a business perspective tonight, but to say, how do I feel about where I am in my life? How do I feel about my career, business, whatever it is that you're doing? You need to understand that feeling, and that is the key. So everything is energy, and as I said, energy is non-judgmental. So that's why when I would say to people or look at myself and say, oh, man, I work so hard, I put in so much energy and effort, I knock myself out, why is it that I can't be successful? Part of it was me being a victim, but part of it was just me not understanding that it wasn't about that, because I would see other people, they weren't working so hard. They weren't doing all these things, and I was like, why are they successful? I don't understand. So I realized that everything is energetic, and the energy does not judge. So then it shifted me to saying, I have to feel a certain way to move myself to the position that I want to be in. So emotion is energy in motion, because everything that you're doing is driven by how you feel. So think about it. If you get stressed out and you eat, why are you doing that? Because you're emotionally stressed out, or you have a drink, or you yell at someone, or you lose your temper. That is all driven by emotion. It's all driven by emotion that you do not know how to manage properly, and you do not know how to find. Now, it's not your fault because nobody taught you how to do it. I didn't know how to do it. So until somebody taught me and said, okay, this is how you do it, then I realized, oh, I need to stop, not be reactionary, and understand what it is that I'm feeling, and then shift my energy so that the energy that I'm sending out and the emotion that is working to move me in the direction that I want to go in. So that is the key element to doing this work, and to work at a higher level is to understand that everything is energy and emotion. And once you understand that everything is energy and emotion, it changes your whole perspective. Like I talked about my belief system, which was hard work, dedicate, you put in hard work, and you go nose to the grindstone. That's how you do it. So once I shifted out of it, then all of a sudden I'm seeing it from a totally different perspective. So now the minute something happens, like even when I go in and work with these companies and these clients, and I'm saying, okay, how do you feel? Nobody's asking that question. It's a simple question, but in the business world, nobody's asking, how do you feel? So you have to understand that understanding and be in a space to say, is my emotion in alignment with where I want to go? Do I feel like I am in alignment with where I'm going? If you are not, then that is why you're not creating what you want. And that is why you're not moving in the direction you want to go in, or maybe you've plateaued or you got to a certain place emotionally and you're not in the space that you want to be in. And what we're doing now is this. We're dealing with a balance between the physical world and living in higher energy. And this is where this gets tricky, because now I'm still having a physical experience. So the challenge of our lifetimes, and really the evolution that we are going through as people, is understanding that I am still human and I am still susceptible to everything that humans are susceptible to, right? We're all flawed. We're all human. We're all susceptible to things in the physical world, right? Let's say, hey, if I go outside and walk in front of a car, I'm going to get hit. I'm going to get hurt, right? So I'm working and I'm living between two worlds. So I'm understanding that there is a physical world that I am living in and I'm operating in, but I'm really functioning at a higher level of energy. I'm not seeing it from a linear position. So what's happening is most people who we would call are more third dimensional, meaning they're more grounded in the physical world. These are all these people. They're fighting. They're blowing up stores. They're fighting on social media. They're getting all crazy and bent out of shape because they're reacting to the physical world instead of saying, what is happening within me that is bringing up this emotion? And because I don't know what to do with it, I need to vent it somewhere. So now I have all these places I can vent out my anger, my frustration, my disappointment, my fear, my sadness, whatever the case may be. But I don't understand what's really happening, and therefore I'm stuck in a cycle that I can never get out of. So now we want to understand, hey, I'm having a physical experience, but I'm not a physical being, right? I'm a spiritual being having a physical experience here, but I want to make it fun. So to me, every day when I go out, I'm saying, okay, I'm going to live in high vibration, and I'm going to bring good energy wherever I go. That's my first mission. I want to go out, help people heal. I'm not worrying about all these other third-dimensional things that are going on and who's doing this and who's right and wrong and who's screwing me over and all the things that people are dealing with and who took advantage and all these things, right? Because my focus is not there. My focus is on how do I serve? How do I go out there? How do I put good energy into the situation? Now, the other thing that's critically important that I had to learn was I must balance, we're talking about balance, the giving and receiving. So this is an area where a lot of people struggle because most people are used to giving a lot and not receiving. And this is why people struggle also, because they've gotten conditioned and their belief system is now stuck in this space of I know how to give. So I went bankrupt twice because I was giving and doing good work, and people liked the work that I was doing. It wasn't that I was doing something wrong, but I was unable to receive because my emotional state was a state of unworthiness. Okay, so I'm in a state of unworthiness. So if I'm in a state of unworthiness, my emotion that I'm putting out there is I'm unworthy. That's my emotion that I'm putting out into the world. So it doesn't matter how hard I work because I am not able to receive. And this is something you have to really sit with and say to yourself, am I a good receiver? Am I good at receiving things for nothing? I don't mean that you say, wow, I worked really hard, I deserve that. I'm talking about a simple thing. Can you receive a compliment? Are you gracious when someone wants to give you something? Are you able to receive for the work that you're doing? Do you feel like what you're doing has value? Now, your brain will say to you, your mind will say, oh, yes, 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 yes. But to me, that is not the truth. The truth is based on the results that you're getting. So what I'm looking at in my life, I had to say, because I resisted this, and I said, no, 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 I'm working really hard. I think I deserve it. I really believe it. But until I got honest, and I said, you know what? I feel like a failure. I feel like a loser. I feel like I am not getting it. I do not feel good about myself. Until I accepted the truth, then I was able to release that feeling. Now, we don't want to, because most people, if you say to them, hey, I feel like I'm failing, I feel like I'm losing, I feel like I'm not doing well, they're going to say, no, no, you're doing great, don't worry about it. Instead of saying, you know what, you need to feel that. Feel that emotion. Let yourself feel it so you can let it go. It feels counterintuitive, but that's the way you do it. Now, in the book, I go through a lot of exercises how to do this, but I'm just giving you the basic understanding of what it's about. So your life right now, wherever you are, you're in a position that you're in based on the value that you've placed on yourself and how much you love yourself. And that's where you are. That's why you are where you are. So if you want to expand yourself, you have to then be able to receive. And it's important to say, I can receive for nothing. Maybe you're going to receive an inheritance. Maybe someone's going to give you something. Maybe someone's going to give you a car. Whatever it is, it's your ability to graciously receive and feel like you deserve it that will expand your energy field. And again, we're not doing it from an egoic position. We're doing it from a higher vibration, a higher position of energy, of where we want to live, right? So that's what we want to look at. So that's where I want to take you as you go forward here today, and this is where we want to go. So every time you interact with somebody, you have an ability to create a healing situation. It's an opportunity to help somebody heal. So when I go out there to do a deal, when I go out there to meet with a potential client, I'm having a conversation with them. I'm not worrying about all the things I used to worry about. So I used to worry about getting the right deal, closing the sale, making sure I did the presentation right, all these different things. Now, I still want to be professional. I still want to do a good job. I still want to be at my highest level of work, which I always do. But I'm not attached to the outcome. I'm not attached to who likes it or doesn't. It's more of me just saying, hey, I'm just going to go there, be myself, and then allow the situation to go where it has to go. So in the middle of this whole COVID-19, I end up getting a contact for somebody who says, because what happened for me was all my speaking, a lot of my stuff got canceled because the world ended, right? Now, in the old days, I would have been very nervous about that. I would have been very concerned. I would have said, no, what am I going to do? My whole industry, the whole industry that I work in is basically non-existent. I was doing Zoom calls and I was doing some coaching this way, but a lot of what I did was going out, speaking, and so forth. So I said, you know what? This is the plan. This is where I am. This is something that I have to experience in my life. And they shut us down, whatever it was, and we went through about 6, 7, 8 weeks, and I just kept meditating, and I was, being at peace and saying, you know what, whatever it is, it'll take me where I need to go. And all of a sudden I get a contact from somebody who has a company near me, pretty good sized company. And they said, Joe, I know this company, you should contact them. They're looking for somebody to do sales training. All they ever did was in-person training, and now they never did virtual, which I've been doing for years, and they need somebody to help them with virtual training. I said, well, where is it? As it turns out, it's about 5 miles from my house. I end up meeting with the guys, and I just went and had a conversation. I said, what are you looking to do? And they said, this is what we want to do. I said, well, can you do that? I said, absolutely. I said, it's easy. I didn't say it's easy because I don't want to I said, it's easy for me. I said, I've done it before. I basically probably did say that. I shouldn't say it, right, because I want to build my value. But I said, yes, I know how to do it. I've done it for 20 years, and I could help you guys do it. They brought me in. I went in for a month or two. They came back to me and said, listen, this is absolutely amazing what you've done for us. Tremendous appreciation. They said, we want to give you a contract. Would you sign on with us for a year to help us through all our training programs and, build out our teams and what we're doing? And again, came at a time when nothing was happening. Businesses were all shut down, and the opportunity came to me because I was in the energy and vibration to receive it. Now, I tell you that story only because that never happened to me in the past. In the past, I was the person who didn't get every opportunity. I would go out, I would do presentations, I would do everything great. People would say, yeah, you're the best, we're going to give it to you, and then right at the last minute, they would pull the rug out from under me. That was a feeling I had to deal with, a feeling of disappointment that I had growing up that I had to resolve in order to open my gate to receiving. So look for the areas and the issues that you have in your life that are unresolved. Those unresolved feelings are the things that are stopping you from going forward. Those are the things you have to resolve because your skill level, I'm sure, is there. Of course, we can always be better, but our skill levels, we want to continue to move forward. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a hybrid. So a hybrid, if you look up the definition of hybrid, is basically saying I'm putting two things together that did not go together before, right? So we're going to put two different things together that did not necessarily work. So you look at this, they do this when they cross plants together or species together. They'll do, they put different things together and they create something new. Now, generally, when you create something new, the world looks at it a little bit sideways, right? Because it says, well, I don't know what this is. I don't know how to figure this out, right? How do I look at this? We had this when we started with hybrid cars, and we started, these different things that start coming into the world. A donkey is actually a hybrid, right? It's a horse and a pony, and it creates a donkey or whatever it is. So all these, we've seen it with different plant species and things like that. So we're going to create a hybrid in the business world. That is where we're going now, and that's what we want to be. We want to be hybrids. So I call these hybrids high energy entrepreneurs. That's how I look at where we're going. We're going to work from a different position. So the old school was pressure, manipulation, fear, greed. That was the old school. That was the school that, like I said, when I read that book was all about pressure, manipulation, fear of loss, greed, wanting to have everything, not wanting to share it with anybody else. That was the old school that we were in before. As high energy entrepreneurs, we're going to be in a different place. So we're going to come from a place of love, a place of service, a place of helping, and a place of healing. Now understand, part of this that's important that I just talked to you about is I want to live in that space, but I must open up my gate to receiving. If I do not open up my doorway to receive, that is going to be a problem for me. I'm not going to be able to go forward, and I'm not going to be able to create what I want to create in my life. So I want you to understand that as you're moving forward, that even if you stay in this space where I'm showing you love, service, helping, healing, you still have to work on receiving and wanting it to be easy and flowing. So this is what I want you to work on, because you're on this. You would not be on a Heal the Deal webinar if you wanted to do pressure and manipulation and live in fear and be greedy. But I still have to be able to receive. So I want you to work on that. That's an important thing that we want to work on. So I created this thing. It kind of came to me one night when I was working on the book, and I call it E squared. So E squared is basically saying I want to combine high energy with expertise. Now, when I look at this, the reason it kind of came to me this way, I kind of saw it like almost like Einstein, right? E equals, not that I'm Einstein, but E equals MC squared. It was like E squared because it's energy and expertise. It's E times 2, really. And when I looked at people that were successful, and by successful, I'm talking about people who were balanced, people who had positive lives, people who were helping the world be a better place. I noticed that they had these two things. But I've also noticed it in athletes, and I've noticed it in all different areas of life, right? I've noticed this across the board. So E squared is energy and expertise. When I train salespeople, and I've been training salespeople for 30 years, believe it or not, I was a kid when I first started training. I went out, my first job, I was selling advertising. Within a couple of months, the guy came to me, my manager, he said, Joe, would you take the new guys out in the field? It was almost like a natural skill that I had, right? I didn't appreciate it because I didn't even realize it was a skill. I just said, oh, yeah, you want me to take these guys out and you want to pay me a little extra? That's great. I didn't realize I was training them and helping them, but that was my natural skill set. So what I learned as I was training all these different salespeople, I would see salespeople and I would say, wow, this person works really hard. They know all the material. They know the information. They know how to do the presentation. They've got all this expertise, but they're not successful, or they're struggling, or they're just doing okay. Then I would see people who just had very good energy. They were very upbeat. They were positive. They went out there with a good attitude, and they would be successful. But the people who were the superstars had both. So what I wanted to do was create E squared, which was energy and expertise combined. When I have these two elements, I am unstoppable. So energy is, how do you feel? This is, of course, important. I asked you this earlier, right? How do you feel? That is going to be first. Do you feel good about yourself? This is an important feeling to understand. What you believe. So your belief system, even though we may look at ourselves now as adults and say, oh, you know, I was a kid and I had different beliefs, and now I'm an adult and I have different beliefs and I'm in a different place in my life, and I don't have to worry about these things anymore. Not true, because we still carry old beliefs from when we grew up. I do this exercise with people all the time, and I always say to them, how was the feeling of receiving communicated to you as a kid? If you wanted something, if you asked for something, was that met with positivity, or was it met with negativity? We don't have the money for that. We can't do that. What do you think you're doing? So this is what I'm talking about, right? Is this ability to receive. Do you have this ability? Is this in your belief system? The energy you are projecting. So understand something, and this is critically important. We are all projecting energy all day long. So I am already projecting energy for tomorrow, as are you, based on how I feel now. So before I go to an appointment, before I go do a presentation, before I go tomorrow morning to train this group of people that I'm going to be training tomorrow morning, I am sending energy over there based on how I feel. So understand, don't underestimate your power and your ability to send energy out, because you're doing it anyway. Of course, what I said earlier, your feeling of worthiness, this is critical. If you do not feel worthy, you cannot receive. How am I going to sell something to you? How are you going to appreciate me? How am I going to receive this money? How am I going to receive the positive feedback even, if I don't have that feeling of worthiness? Now, this is not ego. I want to be clear. I could have done a whole call just on ego, but I want you to understand, this is not about your ego. This is about feeling loved, feeling valued, and feeling and appreciating your own skill. So this was something I think that for me took a long time to say, you know what? I have to appreciate my ability that I have in certain areas, my ability to train, my ability to communicate, my ability to connect with people and help people elevate their lives. Doesn't make me better than them. That's a skill that I have. You know, I'm always fascinated. I'm not a handy person. I'm one of those people, I'm like the can't screw in a light bulb guy. I'm a very basic. I can do very basic things. And when somebody comes into my house and does work like that, fixes things, builds something, I look at them in amazement, because they're like, oh, my God, that's so amazing to me that you could do that. And these people will all say, oh, yeah, I was handy when I was young. It came easy to me. So we devalue ourselves because a skill that comes easy to us, we don't realize how valuable that is. And I started to realize when I got out there and I started to go do more training and meet more people and create more success for people, I started to say, wait a minute, I must be pretty good at this. But it's my thing, right? It's easy for me to do it because that's the skills, and my soul in this lifetime came with those skills. You came with specific skills that you are now should be using to help the world and yourself. So this is something that I want you to focus on. Are you using your skills? What comes easy to you? What is it that you should be doing? And you should feel worthy to receive it and say, yes, I am great at this. I can sit here now and say, I am great at speaking, training, connecting with people, helping. This I am great at. This is a skill that I am great at. I don't say it with ego. I say it with reverence because I realize that the same way that person could come in my house and I would say to them, you are great at doing woodwork. That is amazing. There's nothing wrong with that person saying, yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Or you are a great musician, that you are great at it. It just came naturally to you. So understand that you need to receive with grace, but acknowledge your own greatness. That is part of your elevation. And then, of course, what are you attracting? That is your energy. So whatever you're bringing in is telling you what's inside of you, right? It's telling you that this is what's inside of me. If I'm attracting people who don't appreciate my work, then that means that's the energy that I am holding. If I am attracting people who appreciate me and make me feel good, then that is the energy I am holding. There's nothing to do with how good you are, how smart you are, or how hard you work. It has to do with that feeling. Now, your expertise in this area that we're discussing would be saying, have I mastered my sales process? Do I have product knowledge or knowledge of my topic of whatever it is that I do? Do I have communication and listening skills? One of the things that I'm always very strong with teaching people, especially in sales, is, are you listening? Are you understanding the person you're working with? Are you connecting with that person? Do you understand how you can help them? Have you made that connection with them? Right? Critical. And of course, to me, most important thing in the world is going to be consistency. Because if you're not consistent, you're not going to be able to get where you want to go. And it's the same thing. You see people with diets, you see people with work, you see people with anything. They're not consistent. I see it with exercise, you see it with everything. We must be consistent. We must be vigilant in our practice across the board. So what happens is my natural talent will get me so far, but my desire to be great is in the expertise. So if you see Michael Jordan or you see a great athlete, they had natural skill, but they worked. When I meet musicians, and I used to work in New York at a nightclub, and at the nightclub we used to have a lot of famous musicians would come in at night, and at the end of the evening there would be some kind of shows, and when it was late, all these people would come in and they would do a jam session. So all these different people, and a lot of them were studio musicians. So they were, one of those things that studio musicians are considered the best. They're considered like the top because they could go in and read music, do all these different things, right? They can do all this different stuff, and they're considered top. So these guys would all come in and play at night, and I would talk to them at the end. That we'd have a beer at the end of the night and be having a conversation. I would say to them, how long did it take you to get there? And they would all say the same thing to me. And one guy was specifically, I'll never forget, we had a conversation. He was a very well-known studio musician in New York. He played on everybody's records, Hall & Oates and all these different, big groups, the Bruce Springsteen, everybody. And I said, what was your progression? He said, I was a kid. He said, I loved to play. I would come home from school. I would lock myself in my room. Everybody was out playing sports or doing this or going to a movie. Not me. He said, I came home every night. I played guitar for a couple of hours. And he said, I kept playing and playing and playing and playing. And he said, it took me about 10 years to get good, what I considered to be good. And he said, you know what? I always did it. I always worked with different people. I always kept improving my skills. And he said, in 20 years, I said, wow, now I'm really up there. I felt like I was really a top level player for 20 years. And he said, still now, he'd been playing for like 40 years. He said, still now, every day I practice, I sit down with other guys, I learn from other musicians, and I want to keep improving myself. So this is the key to your success. Your key is going to be saying, hey, you know what? I maybe have certain skills, and maybe certain energy you have is in a good space, but I need to get my energy in alignment, and I need to look and say, how do I improve my expertise? That takes you from good to great. That takes you from being good at something to being phenomenal at something. And that's where you want to go, and that's where you will go in this higher vibration of energy. I want you to just follow your feelings, trust yourself, go where the universe takes you. I would say to you, at the beginning of this year, if you would have told me that I was going to be doing work like this and working with a company down the block and not going around and speaking and doing what I always did, I would have said, why would I do that? Why would that happen? That's not what, that's not my thing. But the universe threw me a curve because it was meant for me to go through this experience my way for my soul, the same way it was meant for you to go through this experience your way for your soul, right? We are all having an experience now based on the way it is, right? Based on what's going on, based on what's happening. So we have to understand that your experience right now has been customized for you. And that's something I want you to really take to the bank. So whatever's going on in your life, however this whole pandemic has affected you, however this has impacted your life, understand that it is really an opportunity to heal and to elevate yourself to a higher level by resolving issues you didn't resolve, by moving you into a place that was better for you, by taking you to other opportunities, to bringing you to people maybe you never would have met. Whatever it is, it's perfect for where you're going. So I'm going to leave you with a couple ideas and thoughts, and I want to thank you so much for your time and being with me. So really, I look at it this way. You are here to serve, share, and prosper. Now, here's what I mean. You're here to be of service because we are all one energy. So we are here to serve, meaning when I help you, I help myself because we are all one energy. So when I help you, I help me, right? That's part of it. That's part of our united energy, which is really where we're going, which is why we're seeing polarity. People at higher energy are saying, I don't want to be involved in all this negativity, but that's fine. Those people's souls had to go through their thing. You're here to share, not in the way you think. You're here to share your gifts. You're here to share what makes you special. What is that thing that makes you special? Are you sharing that with others? Are you sharing that with the world? Think about all the great musicians and painters and artists and business people that have done such amazing things because they shared their greatness, their brilliance with the world, and that's what you're supposed to be doing. And finally, you're here to prosper. You're here to live a nice life. You're here to live a life of pleasure. You're here to be taken care of. You're not here to be struggling and suffering and being in pain. That is not why you're here. So the prospering will tie back to what I said earlier about receiving, right? The prospering ties to receiving. That's where I want you to live. That's where I want you to go. Understand that the prospering is an important part of the process. And it doesn't mean, again, if you have more and you want to help other people and it gives you the ability to do that, that's great. But you want to be able to receive for yourself. And this is something I want you to focus on as we elevate, because we're going into very high vibration right now, very high energy. The more you are aligned with your highest self, the easier this road will be, and the right opportunities and the right situations will come. You will also be faced now with issues that you have not resolved. So if there's anything in your life that you have not come to terms with and you have not resolved and you have not dealt with, it could be a relationship, could be a family issue, could be a health issue, whatever that may be, that issue is going to be pushed into your face if it hasn't been already, and you must resolve it or you will not go forward, because you'll get stuck in that negative space of energy. You won't be able to go forward. So this is the message for me to you, is this is your time to be great. Not egoically, but to be great as a human, to be great as a spiritual being, and to put it all together and live a life at a higher level. And that's where we're going as humanity. Now, those of us on this train, I have 100% faith that we are going to be taken exactly where we have to go. And I am going to be taken in my life exactly where I have to go, as I have been throughout my life. And we all look back and we can probably see that picture. So trust the universe, have faith, but you have to clear your path. Like I said, this upgrade of your emotional operating system is critically important. You have to upgrade your operating system. You have to get yourself in the right emotional space, keep working on your inner self, and then go out there in whatever it is that you do, and go out there with the idea that every time I transact with somebody else in any circumstance, I am going to heal the deal. I am going to go out there and help that person heal. I don't care if they buy from me or not. I don't care if they buy what I'm selling or not. I don't care. When I walk out of that room, my only intent is to say, did I leave that room and leave those people in better energy than when I walked in? Because I know somewhere down the road, that energy comes back to me in a positive way. And I have no attachment to the outcome. And I'm not afraid of not making a sale. because my intent is to heal first. And that is where I want you to live. So a couple of things before we say goodnight. And again, I want to thank you. I hope you found this to be helpful and interesting. This recording, I'm going to send this out as well, so you'll be able to listen to it again. Please visit my YouTube channel. If you want to see, I put up videos all the time. It's ashotofjoe.com. And again, I put up new videos all the time about what's happening in energy and what's going on. So it's a fun place to go. I also do a call on the first Saturday. I do a webinar like this on the first Saturday of every month called Spiritual Saturdays. You can see more about that at spiritualsaturdays.com. You can see it over there. And of course, the book is now available, Heal the Deal. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes & Noble. Wherever you get books, it's out there. There's a Kindle available as well if you're a person who likes that style or that type of, if you're a Kindle reader or if you're a Kindle person, that's great. So it really is. So I got a couple of, if you have a question, you can pump it into there's a little question box on your screen, or if you want to hit *2, I'll be happy to talk to you for a minute. If you have a specific question, I'll be happy to answer that for you. If not, I'm going to email this out to everybody and send you my email address. You can send me a question that way as well. But I have a couple here. My friend Scott over in Long Beach is saying, "Hey, City Slicker, speaking of hybrids, a mule is a hybrid of a donkey and a horse." Great message, as usual. Again, right? So mule, again, was a weird animal in the beginning. Now it's normal. My friend Dick over in Anaheim Hills, regarding the area of how you feel, does it relate to how I feel about myself or my work or both? Often I feel great about aspects of my work that I am not real good at, but enthusiasm makes up for it. I attract people who like my enthusiasm and forgive my shortcomings. Does that make sense? Yeah, because, again, there's no such thing as shortcomings. It's just we all are humans. We are all good. We all have, I don't want to see myself, we all have areas that could be better, that I don't want to call them anything negative. So this is something important. As you're going out there into the world, can you be better at something? Yes. Am I better now than I was 10 years ago at doing a presentation or whatever? Absolutely yes. But the bottom line is this. The bottom line is I don't want to call it a shortcoming. I don't want to call it a deficiency. I want to call it an area that I'm working to improve. Right? It's just something I'm doing to be better. We're all trying to be better. Right? We can always be better at something. It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's a deficiency. It doesn't mean it's a shortcoming. It's just me being human and continuing to elevate myself every day and seeing myself in a positive light. So understand that and see yourself in a positive way. Love yourself. That's basically the bottom line. And go out there with positive energy, help other people heal, and you will see how that energy wheels back around to you and creates incredible success. So I want to thank you so much. I hope you found this to be helpful, and I hope this gave you a little jolt of some positive energy and some things to think about. I look forward to connecting with everybody again soon, hopefully live. Once we get out of this whole situation, I'm like, it's like I was so used to being out there live and meeting people. That's kind of my thing, right? It was always something I loved. But again, we all have to wait and be patient and see where the energy takes us to the other side. So please stay blessed. I love everybody. I love you all. Focus on loving yourself. Go out there and help people heal and watch how it comes back to you. Talk to you soon. Be blessed.